Welcome back, everybody. This is our last talk, our last Sunday talk before the 100 days is finished. It's really exciting, and for this last talk, I wanted to focus on a very special subject, which is what is Suzuki Method. Sometimes it's a bit overlooked or misunderstood, and I thought it would be great if we could talk to someone who really knows it, who knows it deep inside. And it's really amazing that we have this opportunity to talk to Koen Rens, all the way from Belgium. He's one of the most renowned teacher trainers at the moment, and for me it's just a really good friend and someone who deep in his heart and understands the Suzuki Method. So I thought we could talk to him and we can have a really good insight on the Suzuki Method. So if I was going to ask you what is the Suzuki Method and you would have to explain it to somebody, what would you actually say? Because I find it funny when you explaining it.
I think that the Suzuki method is the mother tongue method and talent education. That is maybe in the most simple form. So if and mother tongue method means that we are studying how we learn our mother tongue, and we are applying the things that we think we understand from how we learn mother tongue. We apply that to learning to play an instrument. And so a child learns the mother tongue without thought, actually, because every child is, let's hope every child, is surrounded by language. It's immersed in the language. Nobody expects the child to immediately speak. It is hearing, it is listening, little by little understanding parts of it, and it takes in, and it sometimes even by accident finds the first words. Then whenever a child is learning and discovering something, the environment reacts with praise, is enthusiastic, is happy about the discovery. So child finds totally by accident, mama. And suddenly the whole world reacts differently. Mother-in-law and neighbor have to come and papa have to come and say, she said mama. Kid didn't say mama, kid just said mama. Just made some noise with the saliva in the mouth. But we want to hear that. And so kid finds out that whenever suddenly something is changing in the environment, there is suddenly a lot of attention, a lot of praise, and a lot of remodeling the example. Because suddenly the whole world goes, mama, mama, mama. And papa goes, papa, papa, papa. And the crazy uncle goes, parapsychology. And it's tries to get the kids to copy them. And so there is this the imitation can only start because the environment is providing lots of opportunities to copy, and is directly towards the child, directly towards the child, like, okay, oh, and what about this? And so connection takes place. So it's a very, very beautiful personal journey. So mother tongue doesn't work if the parent is not around. If nobody is there to speak with the child is not going to learn the language. Mother tongue is every day. If you, I often say, if you put a plant, like you have a beautiful flower, and on Wednesday at 1 o'clock, you put it in good soil, you give it some water and some sunshine for 30 minutes, or I don't know, maybe you have 60-minute lessons, okay, 60 minutes. Then afterwards, you take it out carefully, you clean the roots, you put it in the cupboard, and on Saturday, when there is group class, you put it back in for another hour and a half or 2 hours, and then everybody expects the plant to die. Right? We find that normal. So if you do the same thing to your talent, you only pay attention to the talent. You only take care of it when you're in the violin lesson or in the group class. Of course, your talent is not going to sprout. It's going to die. Your talent will go like, of course, everybody knows it. It's like the flower. It will never turn into a tree. So that's not Suzuki who invents that. That's just the law of nature. Nature is a force of nature. So if we create this kind of environment where a certain ability is present and and people are examples of this ability, then the desire can grow to also acquire this ability. And so when language is in the environment, we can acquire the language with all the rules and exceptions that comes to it. And actually we can acquire in 4, 5, 6, 7 years a virtuoso level of speaking, because it's in our environment at the virtuoso level. And speaking your local dialect is virtuoso level. Must explain Suzuki method. I think there are a couple of things. You have the philosophy, what I'm just talking about, the mother tongue approach with everything that it brings. Suzuki method also is methodology. It is a huge body of knowledge and experience and exercises and repertoire and insight in how music and how instruments work and how learning works, that is shared all over the world by thousands of experts. So if a Suzuki teacher becomes a Suzuki teacher, if we start learning Suzuki method, we actually get access to this internet of knowledge. And we suddenly get a worldwide family that cares about the same things as we do, more or less. And so I think that is also part. So you have this huge methodology. I think thirdly, Suzuki method also is a worldwide network. So it's a set of organizations and associations to support the network of people that we have. We have a worldwide network of people who care for similar things, who have similar values, who have huge knowledge over the different instruments and early childhood education and CML is actually hugely influenced by Suzuki method and constructed on Suzuki method. There is so much, so many beautiful people out there that we easily connect to. And if everything works fine, our regional and national and like worldwide associations, they actually allow for this network to really blossom. Incredible volunteers. There's so many people giving of their time and their knowledge, their money to make the network function. That those associations actually can help us hugely. Yeah, reading Nurtured by Love always is a good idea. I think Dr. Suzuki already had a certain age when he wrote that, and he already had like a very intense life behind him. And well, of course, my Japanese is non-existent, so I need to read translations. But when you read English, old or new translation, or the German translation, or the French translation, or the Flemish, is it? There are so many layers in what he says, and for some reason or another, you open the book and you read something, and very often it happens to me that I think, oh, I never really understood this. And today it seems to make sense to me. So it goes in so many layers.
Yeah, like any good book is like that, isn't it?
Yeah.
It has
Well,
a deeper meaning every time you read it.
Yeah. Because there's already so much life experience in there. It's not just some like really fresh ideas, but ideas that he has been looking to from different points of view. And then, of course, it always comes down to our like nurtured by love, but the whole mother tongue concept, like we learn, we can learn in the way that we learn our mother tongue. And in that way, we can learn more or less any other skill.
Yeah.
And Dr. Suzuki making those deductions from how do we actually learn to speak the mother tongue? Is by immersion. It starts really early. Parent is involved. Yeah, it's mother tongue. It's not like babysitter's tongue. And so mother or anybody who takes that place in an early, like really young life. And what I found really shocking, or how can I say that? Like that's probably one of the really huge implications, is that every child has the potential to learn to speak the mother tongue. So every little baby can learn to speak. So if you apply that method to other things, it implies that any normal little healthy baby can learn anything that you would bring to them in the same way. I think that's pretty deep. And of course, him being so interested and so in search of what is art, and as a deduction from that, what is music, and coming through music through the violin, that would make sense to ask the question, okay, can I also learn to play the violin in that way? Or can we teach little kids to learn music in that way, with all the, well, known results? Strikes me when I come in Japan. I remember the first time I was in Japan, and it was a summer school, if I remember well. And so it's a big auditorium, and there are hundreds of kids playing, and there's not enough space. Like that fit maybe 400 on the stage, so they put like book 1 to 3 on the stage, and all the other kids are spread out in the auditorium. And I sit in one of those seats in the auditorium, and there is a boy, maybe 8-9 years old, maximum. And he stands at the end of the row, and there, when the group is playing Twinkle, he plays Twinkle as if his life depends on it, like with such dedication. And it was really moving to watch. And he's not the only kid. It's just like hundreds of them like that, really going for it. And then when they play Vivaldi Book 4, the kid is playing like his life depends on it. And he's enjoying it so much. And he enjoys like every little note of the whole piece. And he's just so immersed. And when they're playing end of Book 8, he's still with the whole group. And he's just playing this repertoire. The kid can play. And what struck me is that kid has this attitude where he's so eager to play whatever piece it is. Basically, he's communicating his joy of life and through music, and he just uses these pieces and goes with the flow of this music and what the emotions that the music brings to him. And I thought, how do you get this? I want to know how this works. There's a way we learn the mother tongue also. Nobody's sitting with a baby on the arm. Now, okay, we have 10 days to get this done. Or I have 20 minutes, you need to learn a word now. We don't think like that. When the kid is not speaking yet, we just have such deep faith and conviction that the kid will eventually learn to speak. And already the fact that we have this deep trusts, it already makes us different because we're not in a hurry, you know. And if the pronunciation is not clear, we just expect it not to be clear. We expect a small violin to sound like a small violin, right? We expect a 6-year-old, even if they play a Vivaldi concerto, which is a huge accomplishment, we still expect them to sound like a 6-year-old.
Yeah.
And let's hope we don't expect any 6-year-old to sound like a grown-up who's already suffered in their life. Why would you want that? One of the things that I really love about the concept of mother tongue method is that, so every child can learn it. So it depends on the environment. You learn your mother tongue in an environment of love, and no parent would ever think that the child needs to be able to speak first before they can communicate. Because any parent who's had a baby in the house for an hour knows that the baby can communicate way before they can talk. And the same thing is there with music. We can already communicate before we learn to play the instrument, before we can control the instrument. And it's so beautiful when a kid is just learning open string rhythms or play their first twinkle. They have not developed the skill yet to hide their emotions or to make believe. The beginner doesn't have this skill. They have no idea about that. So either they're there and they're focused and they can play the piece, or they're not with the piece and the piece falls apart. And it's so sincere. It's like the most authentic playing you can get. And enjoying that makes you actually be so with the music and with the child and with the trust that eventually the kid starts to associate this nice feeling with making music and with practicing. We love playing and we love practicing. And we sometimes have to fight or to really organize ourselves to get some practice done. And I don't think we practice because we have to. We practice because we want to. And of course, sometimes there are external motivators like an upcoming concert or a 100 days practice challenge. But it's also like with the language. You use the language to communicate. In the beginning stages, the kid goes like, when they want a cookie, and parent understands, right? And a little bit more, like further advanced, kid says, cookie, cookie, cookie. And the parent understands. And after a while, the parent doesn't understand anymore. You say, beg your pardon? Cookie, please. So we already get grammar. It's same message, right? And in the next stage, you even don't understand cookie, please anymore. You say, mommy, would you love to have a cookie? And shall I take one for myself too? So it's just always more advanced. And same thing with twinkle, same thing with whatever we play. And that those are like implications in mother tongue method that I like. And of course, when the child learns to speak the mother tongue, we take it for granted that there is a parent involved. And actually, both parents or whoever is taking care of this child is involved very deeply into that process. And we expect the parents to be an expert in the language they're teaching the child. And that's a tricky one when you're learning to play the violin, because it's basically, if I would teach my baby to speak Spanish, that would be very poor Spanish. No comprendo, no hablo español. And even the accent is. So when I get into that situation, I need help. I need to play, have my Spanish radio on all the time, so that he hears Spanish that is better, with better pronunciation than mine. So I need to bring in Spanish-speaking people. I need to take my kid regularly to a place where there are other people who speak Spanish, and all the time I feel like I'm running behind. So I need to take classes so I learn to speak Spanish. And of course, I feel inadequate. Well, the good thing about that is that I understand a little bit better how it feels for the kid when they cannot express themselves the way they want. And also I have no other choice but just trust my teacher, that whatever this teacher teaches me will be good enough for my kid to find out. And as a parent, I will find pride in the fact that suddenly my kid seems to speak better Spanish than I do, and learns quicker, and then starts reading their own stories and starts talking with the teacher, and I cannot follow anymore. And I'm still needed, not to correct them, but to be there, to be full of awe, to make sure that they still have the good books, and that they're watching this play and this television show in Spanish. And this same thing, whether you want them to play the violin or to play the trombone, or it's very similar situation. And that, I think, is an incredible gift that the parent gives to the child. It's so beautiful. Because it is so utterly selfless, and is, or unselfish, is that maybe a better word?
No, selfless.
It's like, yeah, it's so altruistic, and it does take a lot of work. No, being a Suzuki parent, quite a challenge.
I think you're right. I think from all the Suzuki perspectives that I had in my life, I started as a Suzuki kid, then Suzuki teacher, and even training other teachers now. But being a Suzuki parent is the most difficult one in many ways.
I'm sure.
Because even that it's a joy, and it's something that we're giving to our children, it's something you have to put some effort and thought into it, because every day, every week, practice is different. You need to find, even as a teacher, you need to find different ways of approaching it.
Yeah. And the way they are with their kids is, they're not so different when it comes to schoolwork, or when it comes to spending time together, or when it comes to values, or when it comes to violin playing. Then they're basically the same person. And so if this parent is strict with themselves in a kind way, they will be strict with their kids in a kind way. And when the parent is full of doubt and of like when their own reservoir of love has not been filled so much, then it's just so difficult to give this trust to the child. Beautiful and healthy music that is actually a great gift for the child to get in touch with these beautifully balanced ideas. I always say, it's no accident that book 10 and book 9 is Mozart concertos and not Paganini or Ligeti, for that matter. There is a certain type of balanced love that reflects, especially in Mozart's music. So it makes sense that we are trying to bring this kind of balance, like balance in life, and filled with love, what Mozart is, and elegance, and it's polite music, so there is a lot in there that that reflects what we are looking for in a beautifully developing human being. So it makes a lot of sense to have that as your repertoire. Like it makes a lot of sense that actually in the first 8 books, there's only one book where there is no Bach. And then in book 6, you have like 2 full Handel sonatas. So, and Bach representing this order, the structure, I also think that there's no way to play Bach without mentioning the spiritual dimension of that. And that is so far beyond just a religious belief or so. There is a spiritual depth and dimension to that music. And already when they learn the first minuet, parents recognize that their kid is learning something that is different from what they have been learning before. The parent always notices, oh, wow, there's something with this music. And so using this repertoire, because it stands for certain values and it actually invites us to focus on this kind of message, that is very, very strong, it's very smart. When you think about Dr. Suzuki's idea, that he actually started this whole talent education movement, the whole mother tongue approach right after the Second World War. Japan lost the war, was bombed. The Japanese people had always trusted their emperor, almost godlike, and they followed him wherever he would go. And then I'm really not capable of imagining what that must have done to the psyche of a whole people. And then being bombed with a nuclear bomb, I'm born in 1965. I've never known my country being in war. We just have no understanding of it. None. It's just beyond my understanding. And in this type of environment comes this man who says, I'm going to dedicate my life to bring beauty and harmony and love to the children. I think it's extremely beautiful. And he must have had so much beauty inside to actually still feel the courage to do that, because his family lost everything. He wasn't even allowed to live with his wife during the war. And so he starts with one tiny violin and 6 kids. And he goes with the violin from door to door because his conviction, his goal of why he does this, he didn't think a moment that he was going to make Queen Elizabeth competition winners. Didn't cross his mind. He even got angry when or frustrated at least when Koji Toyoda was presented as a genius, whereas he was just a product of the environment that he was raised in. And with those extremely beautiful, pure ideals, he starts a movement, and that gets bigger and bigger, and that, of course, because of the beautiful results, attracts the attention of colleagues. And he started then this talent education movement. In Japan, it was not Suzuki Method. It was not about him. Is it something to think about when we think about the way we organize our associations and our companies? It's not about us. It's even not about Suzuki. And to get this exchange going, I always say the Talent Education Research Institute in Japan. That's the regional association that has the most beautiful name, because it has talent education in it and it has research. And as a Suzuki teacher or a Suzuki parent or a Suzuki student, we are invited to all the time develop our talents, and to research, to question things, to not take things for granted, and to time and again renew this idea that that why are we doing this? There's so much in this mother tongue approach. It always goes deeper, I think, the more you think about it. Of course, we always say you start early. Every child can. We learn to play by ear, which I think there's a lot of misunderstanding about playing by ear. In order to play by ear, that's the kid who sits at the piano and doesn't have piano lessons and just figures out Frère Jacques. They go do 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 no do 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 da do da da do da, and they find how the piece works. They find out how the piano works. And they find da da do da 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 do da do do. That's playing by ear. Melody is already in your head. The music is already in your head. And you figure out how this instrument works, so you can produce the music that's in your head. That's playing by ear. Playing by ear is not A 3 3 2 2 1 1 A. That's not playing by ear. That's an algorithm which you learn, and it's absolutely okay to learn the algorithm in order to find out how the violin works. But as soon as possible, we need to find out how we can play by ear. And so any good musician who's playing Mendelssohn octet with the music in front of them is playing by ear, because they don't see a dot that represents a finger. They see a symbol that explains and they know how to make that on their instrument. That's playing by ear. And if you don't get beyond the dot finger, you can never play that. You can only it's like reproducing a text in Finnish that when you don't speak any Finnish, you just go like how many R's in there, how many K's, and you write lots of mistakes because you don't understand what you're saying, right? At some point, you cannot be an analphabet, at some point, it's just so practical if you can download some music from IMSLP and just learn to play it. Or someone has written a new piece that nobody ever recorded. You don't find the recording, so you read the music straight from the score, like you read text straight from the book, and the ideas come in your head. So yes, we learn to read, and we read only around the age of 6 or 7, like we do in language. Kids learn from observation. They learn from the other kids. They learn from their parents. And when we learn language, nobody puts you in a corner when you pronounce a word wrong. You don't get punished for wrong pronunciation. You just get correct example, and that's it. They don't tell you 20 times in a row. They don't make you say the word 1,000 times. They don't say, now we're going to do 10,000 hours of language. We do 10,000 hours of language, but not as an organized practice. It's just part of the environment, because the language is necessary, because it's part of communication. When music is part of our daily communication, it becomes indispensable for us. When music is a mental thing that you do because you have to, and because you're expected to show up with a learned lesson for the next class, it's not part of life. So why would you do that? How can you possibly motivate a kid to, or a grown-up to, if they're not curious to learn, if they don't have the desire to be part of that magic, what music is? Mother tongue? Yes. Classical music? Maybe. For me, yes. Violin? Yeah, for me, yes. But Monotone method can be with drums, can be with voice, can be with mathematics.
Just to finish, and there's something you said earlier when you were saying about Suzuki creating this the method, the mother and talent education in Japan during after the Second World War. And as much as it's impossible to really understand what people might have gone through then, I think we are kind of experiencing in some ways what our values really are now after the pandemic. And in some ways, what we really need now is things that nurture us and that would communicate between people. And from what you're saying, the method is, or the way that we teach music is so much more important now than ever.
Dr. Suzuki challenges us because he actually asks us to keep developing. So goal number one is to develop, like help kids grow into noble human beings. Is goal number one. Let there be no misunderstanding. It's a humanist movement. Using music as a tool to acquire that. If you meet people like Yumi Kendall or Brian Lewis, or well, I can just name hundreds and thousands of beautiful Suzuki kids who turn into those amazing human beings. So the goal, Haru Goto, to mention one, is so the goal is first and foremost to help to make ourselves develop towards more nobility, more generosity, more kindness, more empathy, to make the world a better and a more beautiful place. That's number one. And which means that the way you hold the bow is important in order or up to the level of where it helps you to develop your character or develop your tone, make your communication better. But whether your elbow is there or there or there is not what makes the Suzuki method the Suzuki method. I think that many of us have been strongly aware of the power of music to connect people, and that we actually have music to bring people together. And as artists and musicians and Suzuki teachers, I think that has been a goal, maybe more clear for some than for others over the years. But now, thanks to the pandemic, or due to the pandemic, we all had to really face how we actually need this communication and how we need to nurture each other in order to feel fulfilled. And it happened more automatically. We are talking through Zoom. If we would be making music through Zoom, the most interesting part of the most rich part of our overtones, of our vibrations, the resonance between us doesn't pass through the machine. So that's why it's so difficult to make music together, or even to make music for each other, because our electronic tools are not equipped, they're not developed to share such high level vibrations. When you're in the same room with a person, you feel those vibrations immediately. If you've ever been in a lesson, like a group class taught by Christophe Bossois, you know what I'm talking about. Is it just such an aura around the guy, spreading the joy and the love and the energy, and everybody takes part in it, because he's just sharing from a pure place. or the pure place, if you want to say. And so I'm also totally confident that we are going back to this way of connection to each other. I feel totally confident that humankind is not just going to stay separated for always. You cannot stop the oil from running. You know, the blood is. We say the blood is creeping where it cannot walk. so, so it's a matter of time that from this huge learning experience, we will get back together, and it will be so beautiful and rewarding, and we will appreciate it like we never did before.
Yeah, I think you're completely right. And thank you for this amazing talk.
Oh, sorry for just rattling around.
It's been great. Thank you. It's I think it's exactly what people need to hear right now. You know, what is it that make us humans and how to get there in some ways. So thank you for being here.
Thank you for inviting me and bring it out, because you are a very beautiful example of exactly that.
Thank you.
Makes it easy for me to talk about it.
I'll see you very soon, hopefully.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to see you in person soon again.
Yes.
Maybe already in Bryanston this year.
Yes.
I hope so.